Alright, so before we start the video, I want to give a heads up that I recorded all of this like Thursday afternoon, and it turned out that this morning that we actually gotten some news on the cards that's supposed to be the reprints for Clan Collection Volume 3. So we're getting Black Saturn, we're getting Stamping Red, we're getting Machining Cyberist, and our main card that's going to be reprinted in every single clan is the Sentinel Crits. So let me see. We had Clan Selection where it was just the what was it? It was just the draw PGs, and then next up we had in Clan Collection Volume 1 and 2, we have the Grade 3 Searchers. Now it's going to be the Sentinel Crits. Alright, but anyway, like, here's my issue with this in a way. I kind of feel like that they missed the opportunity in this set. Like, they dropped the ball hard because, um, we have like two promo cards that's in the original thing. So we have like Armor Beetle and we have Brilliant Blister, and then we have two promo cards here, which is Black Saturn and which is Stamping Red. But then they messed it all up with Machining Cyberist, where it just could have been something like Area Stealer for a prime example. That should have been like the reprint, but that's just me. Like practically everything that's coming in Megacolony are just nothing but promos, which is what up, my Megacolony brethrens. Is Mr. Zoo Nation, aka Savage Armor Jones Giraffe. Let's talk about premium. Let's talk about premium. Uh, my Mega Colony brethren. We have a clean slate to premium format. Well, almost a clean slate. We almost have a clean slate to premium format. So, my question to you guys is pretty simple. What are we going to do? Are we going to become a tier 1 clan, or are we going to become an asshole clan? There's only two routes that we can go at this particular point, but we also have to figure out which one are we going to become. All right, so I do believe that Mega Colony does have a potential to become a tier 1 clan. However, that thread is so thin that it's almost damn near impossible. Let me explain why. As much as I love my clan, I also got to give it tough love. Here's the reason why it's pretty much almost a lost cause. Mega Colony has a lot of issues. A lot of issues that are going to require at least a couple of more waves of support to even put a dent on the simple shit. Reason being is because Mega Colony has two things wrong with it majorly. It doesn't generate enough power, and it doesn't have a finisher. Let's talk about it not really generating enough power. We don't really hit heavy numbers. We're not a clan that was designed to hit heavy numbers. And let's be real, in a way, when you really think about it, premium format requires you to hit heavy numbers. Mainly because you are trying to decrease your opponent's hand as much as possible. Not to mention that even if you don't, even if you aren't able to, why did I do that? Even if you aren't able to kill your opponent as fast as possible, you want to leave them at least 3 cards or less. You want to make your opponent work with as less things as possible. And to be honest, judging by how Giraffe is going, judging by the possibility of Master Beetle also having the ability to rip cards from your opponent's hand, I'm not saying that he's actually going to do that, but I have a strong feeling. Reason being is because the description of Master Beetle matches the description of Giraffa when Giraffa was first announced. So, in my personal opinion, I do have a possibility that Master Beetle will rip Cars from hand. Not to mention, you also got to remember that if this is the case, that means this is going to be the literal first time since the V series that Megacolony will have something of consistent support. Something that we have been lacking since day one. But after all that, you also got to remember that even with all that in general, even though we will still get our opponent down hand size down a little bit further, it's still not enough. We still have to dig under the barrel at the bottom of the barrel to get something that a lot of other clans could do with minimum effort. Like, let's be real. Look at Spike Brothers for a prime example. Spike Brothers could hit people with heavy ass numbers and put their hand size from 12 to 2 really easy. If your opponent doesn't really hit like any damage triggers whatsoever, they can do that pretty easily. They have the power. They can have the consistency, and they also have, they have a lot of stuff that they can do in order to fulfill all that. They hit heavy numbers and stuff like that. But guess what? We aren't a heavy hitting number clan. That is basically overall what I'm saying. We're not a heavy hitting clan. So we have to make ways of what we can actually do. Let's be real. When it comes to an interview, right? When you do an interview for a job interview, they always ask you, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, right? They always ask you that. One of the things that I've always heard as far as tips on trying to answer those particular questions is whatever weakness you have, you turn it to a strength. I'm going to say this. Our weakness is that we don't hit numbers. But guess what? You know how I can turn that to a strength? We are a toolbox clan. We are the master of everything. We have a stuff that we can actually do to make us a jack of all trades. We are the master of none, but the master of a lot at the end of the day. Let's be real on that. Look at Gridora, look at Giraffa, look at Venom Singer, look at the Machining Clan as a whole, and then look at Gunning Colio. We have a chance to mill, we have a chance to use cradles, we have a chance to rip stuff from people's hand, we have stuff to manipulate the damage zone, and we also have stuff to stun stuff on the field. Our signature shit. So, we have all of these options. We can rip stuff. We have hand control, damage zone control. We have field control. It's all like we can have the possibility of controlling 80% of what people could do, our opponent can do. We have almost near control of that. The problem is that you just can't put it all in one deck. That's the only sad part about it. We can't put it all in one deck. We cannot become Gladiator Beast. It's all like we have the possibility of becoming Gladiator Beast, but not at full power, full consistency Gladiator Beast. That's basically what I'm getting at. We are a toolbox clan, and we must use the toolboxes to our best extensions into the best of our abilities. At the end of the day, that's the way I see it. Now, they may not be the best, but something is better than nothing. And like I said, Master Beetle, if he does have the ability to rip stuff from hand, we're definitely going to have the consistency with both him and Giraffa. Giraffa definitely feels a lot more comfortable in premium format than he does in V premium. So that's also a thing. The second thing, like I mentioned before, we do not have a finisher. Or, here's the thing. We don't have a comfortable finisher. I'll give you a prime example of what I mean by a comfortable finisher. A comfortable finisher would be something like Dragonic Overlord the Purge. The reason being, if your opponent is at 5 damage and you attack and you're at GB3, his dry checks become the amount of cards that is in the damage zone. Which, if it's 5, that means that nigga gets 5 dry checks. And guess what? He has the possibility of restanding if one of those dry checks or an over trigger. If one of those dry checks is an over trigger, that means he can do 10 dry checks. Maybe 9 if you actually are able to heal one. Now keep in mind, those first 5 sets of triggers could be possibly criticals. So that means this boy could be attacking the second time, but like, let's say like he gets like 3 critical triggers and 1 over trigger, and the other one is just like a normal unit. This dude could be hitting for over 4 crits, forcing you to PG with all this power for no apparent reason. That, in my personal opinion, is a comfortable finisher. Yes, in order to get the dry check, you might have to depend heavily on the over trigger, but the possibility is there. It's basically adding insult to injury when you really think about it. But at the same time, you then have Ziegenberg, for another prime example, that is also a comfortable finisher. You know, it can do 3 dry checks if it so happens to hit an over trigger as well, but it still hits 2 dry checks regardless. Hell, there are people who are still using Ziegenberg. It's all like, you also got to remember, if the person's not playing Dragonic Overlord, they still have to use Ziegenberg. You know, because they don't have access to the Purge and whatnot. So, oh yeah. Also, speaking of Overlord, you also have the V-Series version of Dragonic Overlord, the Cross. Because again, he has 3 drive checks with the possibility of 4 on a Force 2 marker. So, they have, at the end of the day, comfortable finishers. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Antlion plus Zoa. That's all we got. That's all the fuck we have is Antlion and Zoa. One of the most boring combos. Hell, I am still fucking mad that we don't have a decent finisher and we still have to be the only clan in the game that depends on Xeroth Dragons. Yes, I understand the whole Ultima thing is still just as good, but let's be real, they're not dependent on it. None of the United Sanctuary clans do not have to depend heavily on Ultima. It is an option. With us on a prime example, 90% of the time, we more likely have to depend on Zoa as a decent finisher. Oh, but what about the GBA? Of course we have the GBA, but let's be real, we don't have time to get to the GBA. We have to end the game right then and there. We have to end the game within the first 2 strides. If we cannot end the game within the first 2 strides, we are done. We're done, son. It's all like people barely even get to stride turn 2. Barely. If somebody doesn't have a good first turn stride, they definitely have a very good stride for second turn stride at the end of the day. So like I said, we definitely need a finisher. It's all like, we do have potential. Like I said, Giraffe is again a decent finisher. We have a decent one at the end of the day. But still, you know, with the cards, no pun intended, that we were dealt with, is not that good. They're good, but like when you think about it in a finisher sense, nah. It's not really that good when you think of finishers. So, what do we do with the cards that we're dealt with? Well, that's actually pretty simple. We have about 5 different ways of playing Mega Colony as we speak. Well, actually 4 right now though, but in a month we'll have 5. So we have Giraffa, we have Gridora, we have Venom Stinger, we have Machining in general, and then we also have Gun and Colio. Now, my personal opinion, I'm kind of actually hoping we get more mill support because I actually wanted that to actually succeed, but of course, I'm not part of the R&D department, so that's not going to happen. But anyway, we have 5 different ways to play the game. You got Giraffe, where you're able to force your opponent to play stuff from their hand, and also have the ability to board control. You have Gridora that can be built in 2 ways. You can either use the old Gridora and try to go more for field control, like mini Optirandus way and stuff like that, while at the same time having damage zone control as well. And then you can kind of sort of use more the dark device things and whatnot. But then you also have the Cradle Marker Gridora, where, in my personal opinion, it kind of sort of is 50-50 the in premium. Like, I literally think it depends on what clan you go against. Like, it will succeed with some clans, but not much with others. That's the way I kind of see it. But the cradle marker mechanic is definitely something that should be looked into as well. Then you have Venom Stinger, where you just try to get your opponent to 5 damage with strides, and then on your next turn you don't stride at all and you just use Venom Stinger's ability. It may not be much though, but it is something. Then you have Machining, where it's in a very weird state because every time Machining gets support, it's always something different. So I mean, like, your main 2 grade 3s will be like what? Metro Bullet and Stag Beetle. Like, I like Spark Hercules, don't get me wrong though, but there's 2 things wrong with this. For one, Counterblast 2 is just too heavy of a cost, and 2, uh, even if you were to not stride and use his skill, I don't think he's strong enough to really handle what premium format has to offer. So that's why I said Metro Bullet and Stag Beetle, they work off with each other very well. Um, Plus their effects also works out very well. So I can honestly see like both of those being like the main, grade 3s as far as like machining goes. And then you have Gun and Colio, which he's in a weird spot. Like, you have the ability to like milling your opponent as long as you're not going against Grand Blue is good, but there's not enough ways to mill in a short amount of time to really justify using it. Although, like, having the ability to triple drive check regardless if you stride or not is something pretty good and something worthwhile to use. And a few of the effects that we had before that was an issue with doing is pretty damn easy to use now, especially think the high class moth. So he has something to really use, but I don't think he's like that strong in premium format. But anyway, we have all 5 of those to work with. We just have to figure out how we're going to like utilize all 5 of these. Maybe not machining so much unless we get Black Saturn in the mix, like in English. Then that might be a possibility. But yeah, man, we have like all of these possibilities. We have all of these toolbox mechanics and whatnot, and you can kind of sort of mix and match like a couple just to see if you can actually do something well. Like, I do like Gun and Colio and Venom Stinger being like a decent match because you can use Gun and Colio in the mid game and then just use Venom Stinger late game. I mean, that's actually a pretty decent possibility. But yeah, outside of all that, I feel like at the end of the day, we have a very small threat to become tier 1, but more likely we're just going to become that ultimate anti-meta clan, which I don't necessarily mind. Even though we're not the strongest of the control clans either, we still have like something to work with. We now can play the format comfortably without dealing with stuff like dark irregulars and Gastille and shit, or dealing with the near stand loop combo that both Blade Master and Valkyrian had, or anything else, or deal with OTK Pale Moon or whatever you want to call it. You know, we don't have to really deal with the big six. I would have to say that our biggest issue would probably be Grand Blue, because in my personal opinion, I feel like Grand Blue has the best defense in the game. There's no ands or buts about it. They're also a toolbox clan, but I feel like they're a way more organized toolbox clan. And worst of all, they can actually get through Cradle like it's nothing. And like I mentioned, like last year, Cradle marker kills itself. If your opponent doesn't have nothing that you can put Cradle markers on, then you're kind of sort of shit out of luck at the end of the day. So, with all that being said, I wish the best for everybody making their decks. I'm definitely waiting to see how Megacolony plays out and where they're spotted at when it comes to premium format. Even though we have a lot of cards stacked against us, I do feel like that we do have a decent place and a playable place, despite not really having like a lot of decent strides. I feel like that if we get creative enough, we can pretty much have one of the most creative deck builds the game has to offer. But with all that being said, I'm about to get out of here. My name is Mr. Zoo Nation, aka Savage Army Jones Giraffe. Peace out, y'all.